The next board up is the village board. If I can ask the candidates to come forward, please. Thank you all for coming. We have Jim Palermo and Mark Kuchler, both trustees on the board presently, and newcomer Jeff Nowak, who serves on the Plan Commission at the moment. Let's see, we have Jim is up first, then Jeff, and then Mark. If you could please give your opening statements. You have 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Katie. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Oh, I turned it off.
How about now? Well, I want to thank the Citizens Council for assembling this opportunity for the candidates to come before the voters. And I want to thank you for coming out on a rainy Wednesday night for an event that has an uncontested race. My name is Jim Palermo, and I've served on the village board for 4 years. It's been a great privilege of mine. As I say, I've lived in town for 17 years, and the trait I bring to the board is a passion for understanding the issues that we're being faced with at a given moment. I do a lot of my own research, and that means I've learned about a whole lot of things I never thought I'd know anything about, be it stormwater management, be it quarry explosions, pension accounting, and things like that. In the next 4 years, I hope to continue to bring that passion to my work on the board. In those 4 years, I want to help the residents understand more about the financial condition that the village faces, and I want to improve the transparency of our village to the residents, bringing more information to the residents with new technology, and just making more information available to the residents to help them understand how their village is being governed. And thank you again for the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to taking your questions, and I hope I'll earn your support on April 5th. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Since I'm tagged as the newcomer, let me give you a little background on myself. I'm Jeff Nowak. My wife Shannon and I lived in LaGrange for 9 years. We have 3 kids, ages 6, 4, and 2, so we're just starting out as parents with a lot of time ahead, apparently. For the past several years, I've served on the village's Plan Commission, also the village's Community and Economic Development Commission, and for several years have served on the Board of Pillars, which is, as many of you know, is a local not-for-profit social service organization that serves our community. One might suggest that I share this experience with you so as to give you the impression that I have what it takes to join this village board. In reality, however, I'm no different than any one of you. Because you're here tonight, because you've come here in this weather to listen to us in this forum, you care about this village. You care what it's about. You care about whether it's a safe place to live. You care about how the village spends its money. You care about, likely care about the policies that it sets in place with respect to its citizens and businesses. You likely care about, and I hope you care about, passing this village off to the next generation. I share those same cares. I bring to the board no agenda. I have no axe to grind. I have no pet issue. But I do have expectations. I have expectations that our village government will care about the safety of its citizens, will care about its infrastructure now and well into the future. I care that it will exercise fiscal restraint and accountability. I have expectations that it will do its part to help continue this economic prosperity that we've enjoyed while keeping this same small town community that values its people above all else. That's what I care about. I promise you that I will ask tough questions if necessary, and that I will do my best to be thoughtful in my decision making so that I can answer yes to the question, are you acting in the best interest of this village and its citizens?
Thank you. I'm Mark Kuchler. My wife Deanne's here, and we have 4 children. One in high school, one going to high school next year, and 2 that are in grade school. I've been on the village board the last 4 years, and have enjoyed my time and hope that I've contributed in several ways. I decided to run for the village board because I wanted to get involved. I didn't have any, like Jeff had said, I didn't have any specific agenda or ideas of what I wanted to see accomplished. And that's pretty much true going forward for this next term. I don't look and say, I hope that we have this specific property in what was the Y property, so to speak. Generally speaking, I think that's an opportunity for development, and it would be great to see that developed in something that's within the character of the current community, or can contribute to the community in a way. As far as challenges, I think the challenges are similar to where they were 4 years ago, and that is limited resources with a whole lot of needs, a whole lot of wants, and how are those allocated, where cuts and sacrifices are necessary, how are those implemented. Saturday the village board will be looking at the budget, and again, there's tough choices. Do we take money out of capital improvements? How long can you do that for? Do you lay people off? Will certain employees take less of a raise and things like that? So there's issues that will be front and center, and that I expect to be front and center. In the last 4 years, I do think we were able to accomplish a couple of things, including the movie theater, being able to rehabilitate that. So thank you.
Thank you for those statements. We have our first question tonight is, other than the general economic and budget shortfall issues, what do you believe are the 2 most significant issues the village will need to address in the next 2 years? And what are your ideas for addressing those issues? I'm sorry. Mark, if you could start with that, please.
I apologize, I don't know that I was completely paying attention, but I think it's the 2 most pressing issues that weren't budget related. At least that's, I guess, what I'm going to answer, because that's the part I heard as I started paying attention.
I can rephrase it. I can
I'll try to pick
say that again. And other than the economic and budget shortfall issues, what do you believe are the 2 most significant issues the village will need to address in the next 2 years? And what are your ideas for addressing those 2 issues?
I guess I'm not sure what are the big issues that are going to come up. I can think of probably 3 main issues that will probably be coming forward in the next 2 years. One being the YMCA project, one being sewers, and one being that's been kind of percolating a lot, pedestrian safety and how that should be dealt with. And so just real quickly, the why, I don't have any preconceived, it should be apartments, shouldn't be apartments, should be just commercial, should be some type of health club or something. I don't. I would like to see it either specifically add something to the village or be in character with the village. As far as the sewers, I think that tough decisions will need to be made. Is that something that, are we going to decide that there's not going to be federal government support, or are we going to wait for federal government support? With pedestrian traffic, I think it's going to be pedestrian safety. It's going to be an ongoing issue that's going to need to be continually looked at.
Okay. Jeff, can you answer the same question, please?
Mark makes some great points, and a lot of them do have to do with money. Sewers clearly will be an issue. We saw that firsthand last year, how we live in a sewer system that was built 100 years ago for a place that was much different than what we have today. And we're going to have to make some tough decisions on that. We're talking about $20 to $30 million to replace our sewage system and to send it out to the deep tunnel. We've got some tough decisions to make. Where are our priorities in that area, because it's so vital to our infrastructure. Life in a post-TIF era as well. We enjoy a vibrant economic district largely because of the past 25 years, building that up through TIF money. How do we maintain that vitality? Government can play some limited role in that to ensure that proper balance between its citizens and a vibrant business district.
Well, I would say that the overarching concern has to be our finances and budget. With that said, what particular things do we need to deal with in the next few years? I agree that sewers are a critical issue. I don't think we want to become known as the village that has chronic flooding, and therefore we need to come up with solutions to the frequent backups that we're experiencing in some parts of town. I advocate the Mars project, which will increase the capacity to deal with rainwater in the western part of town. It'll take a while to get there. Development, I think, is something that we need to be very hopeful occurs. If the YMCA is developed, that'll bring some new tax revenues to the village. Likewise for the Village Bluffs on Bluff Avenue. But that said, neither of those properties belong to the village, and all we can do is help facilitate development. They're not our projects to actually do anything with, but to assist in to allow them to occur, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. And as we continue, I realized that I wasn't attributing questions. If the questions aren't attributed, they were submitted anonymously. So just to let you know that. We did receive a question from the audience in advance, and this question also came in anonymously. What is your position for bed and breakfasts in LaGrange? Jeff, would you like to start with that?
Since I serve on the Plan Commission and voted on this, I think my stance is very clear. The residential area that's adjacent to the business district is a residential area, and we need to protect that. And there has to be substantial, compelling reasons, as the zoning code says, to ever change that. I think we need to be realistic about our future. We have no accommodations for outsiders. We need to give that some thought. That's not to say that we absolutely need those accommodations, but we do need to consider them in the future. Where might they be properly placed in our village if there is that compelling reason that is not going to do any harm to that residential area in our district? The recent discussions that we've had at the Plan Commission level indicate at this point there just isn't any basis for finding a need for those accommodations in our residential area or in the village itself.
Yes, just so that everybody in the audience knows, there was an application made that was presented to the Plan Commission for a bed and breakfast in town. The Plan Commission voted against changing the zoning rules to allow it. First, I'd like to say that I think it was handled well by going before the zoning commission, as opposed to the trustees speaking out and saying, well, I'm going to vote in favor of it. I think it's important, as our role as trustee, that we look at the various commissions when they are addressing something. How did they vote? And making sure that we don't try to second guess them, because their roles are very important. Particularly, specifically with regard to bed and breakfast. I think that it's an issue. It opens up a lot of can of worms. One particular property may be a great place for it. The neighbors might all like it, but then how do you do it throughout the village? And so I think that before it's allowed, a lot of questions would have to be answered.
I did attend the Plan Commission meeting. I was glad I was there because I got to hear many of the residents and some of the concerns that existed I was not aware of. And I'll add to Mark's comments and say that that application has been withdrawn, that issue will not come before the building board in its current format. But generally, I'll say I like the concept, but I think if there are resident neighbor objections, I think those need to be treated with the utmost concern because they will be neighbors. We're a bed and breakfast type concept to come about in the central business district. I think that would probably be a more appropriate place. It wouldn't be an old Victorian home, but if it were a second-story apartment that were fitted to suit short-term travelers who are in town, that might be the better approach.
Okay, thank you. To kind of dovetail off that question, what ideas do you have for generating more revenue for the village? For example, the idea of the bed and breakfast came in, the wine merchants and clubs idea has been kind of out there. What can you explain or give us some ideas that you have for generating more revenue for the village? Let's start with Mark.
When it's talked about generating more revenue for the village, does that mean increasing taxes? That's, generating more revenue sometimes is a euphemism to raising taxes. So as far as that's concerned, I think that the village shouldn't do that. In the last year, maybe 2 years, I think a lot of fees, parking fees, the village sticker fees have gone up. And I think there were some necessary reasons for that. But I think the residents have probably hit a saturation point there. And although in the 5-year budget going forward, there's been some recommendations for more fees, it's an area that I think we need to kind of hold back on. As far as generating new businesses or locating new businesses, one of the aspects comes up, are you trying to raise property values, or are you trying to bring in sales tax? Where the library was temporarily located, that building is now housing an insulation company. They came from not being located in the village to being one of the top 10 sales tax generators. It's not well known, but that's a great use. And I think we should be encouraging that type of use and that type of revenue to come in.
Jim?
I'll speak first to the couple of examples that Katie gave as being revenue generators, the wine merchant, the other being bed and breakfast. It is up to the village to listen and be accommodative of appropriate new revenue generators, but it's not up to us to go out and search for them per se. I too am opposed to increasing our taxes and our fees as well. I think we need to take a long, hard look at the budget. We'll do that Saturday morning, and I hope many of you can join us. And you'll see how we can save money. As I mentioned earlier, the development at the YMCA, Grange Bluffs, perhaps the Hallowell and James properties would be opportunities for both sales taxes as well as property taxes, new development to get on the rolls. But as I say, I'm not a proponent of new taxes at all.
The question itself, and maybe I didn't get the entire question, the question concerns me a bit because I don't think government is in the business of creating ideas to make money. That's left to the private markets, so let's leave it there. And raising fees and raising taxes is not something I'm going to be supportive of either. Government can play a limited role as we've enjoyed increased sales tax revenue because of this vibrant economic district that we have. We can pour that money back into infrastructure, back into streets, back into building facade, back into a new Stone Avenue train station so that people want to come to LaGrange. and they are supportive of the ideas of the private market. That's what government is for.
Thank you. With decreasing, perhaps you've touched on this just a tad, but to go into it a little bit further, with decreasing home values and foreclosures occurring, do you believe local government unit budgets should increase, stay the same, or decrease, and why? Jeff, do you want to start with that?
Given
With-
lower home values?
Well, with decreasing home values and foreclosures occurring, do you believe local governmental units budgets should increase, stay the same, or decrease, and why?
Well, I would certainly like to see my property taxes lower because I just learned the value of my home recently over the past month, and I wasn't excited about it. So, but we need to be realistic about how much we reduce property taxes, first of all, which to a great deal is out of our control. But we always need to be mindful, regardless of whether we're in a down market or in an up market, we need to be as fiscally responsible as possible in how we spend our money. That's first and foremost. Local government exists for very few reasons. Public safety and health, infrastructure, and fiscal accountability, and making sure that we are not spending a ton of money, that we're not increasing fees and taxes, and that we have very set and limited priorities. So whether we're up or down, we should always be looking at the bottom line and how we're spending our money.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, the question deals with, I think, because of foreclosures, therefore maybe the property taxes aren't coming into villages. Let's look at the Grange, I guess. I don't know that that's really the case. I don't know that the property taxes collected by the village has decreased. As far as should the budget go up, stay the same, or go down for the last 4 years, and I expect the next 4, the budget increase that I voted on is regulated by the Tax Cap Act, and I'm in support of the act. I would be in support of continuing those increases, which are capped at the consumer price CPI. So I would say that the budget would increase by that. With that increase, there's other costs that are going up within the village, more than that. I'm not in favor of going to a referendum or something so that can be made. I think it's going to require some hard decisions, but healthcare costs are going up more than this consumer price index, so cuts have to be made, and I'm in favor of that.
Well, we are revenue constrained, and the better part of our taxes come from property taxes, and that is, as Mark points out, a function of the CPI. Now, if we were to see 70s type inflation in mid to high single digits or double digits, I wouldn't feel any better about it than you. I wouldn't want to raise property taxes any more than absolutely necessary. But we face the issue where we're 75 to 85% driven by personnel costs, and those grow far faster than the CPI recently. Salary increases at the fire department, police department are expected to be about 5% per year. That's an assumption taken from our actuarial reports. Healthcare costs, we all know, go up 7 or 10% a year. Our pension contributions are increasing because of the poor market returns. So I'm not at all in favor of raising property taxes, but I think we do need to reduce the cost of government, and I do that by economizing on services, on using joint uses among the neighboring communities to make it more efficient.
Okay, our next question regarding the...
Last question?
Last question? Okay. Regarding the payment of police and fire pensions, there's been a lot of discussions and decisions, or there will be more discussions and decisions that will need to be made on how to deal with those potential issues in the near future. What is your view on how the village should handle the pension issue? Jim, if you'd like to start with that.
I'll start by saying this question doesn't have a one-minute answer. We have had some new legislation in Springfield to reduce the cost to villages and municipalities of their current contributions to pensions. What we've done is Springfield has extended the period to amortize pensions, and they've reduced the amount that those deficits need to be amortized to from 100% over the coming 23 years to 90% over the coming 30 years. That will give the village some relief as its current contributions. But we're still handicapped in that I think there were promises that were made 15, 20 years ago to the uniformed services that then, and certainly not now, do we think can be kept. So the problem we face is retirements earlier than we expect, people living longer. There's demographic issues that I think we need to take a good hard look at the actuarial assumptions that the village is making. And when we do that, we'll find that the deficits that we have in our pension funds are even greater than we think. And I think in order to have a sound financial footing, we need to understand all of those deficits and act accordingly. We may need to reduce services in order to balance the budget.
Mark?
Springfield did recently enact some changes to the pension code, various pension acts under the banner of reform. I do think in some ways they were reforms, and in some ways they weren't. There's issues about actuarial age, there's issues about actuarial retirement age as well as life expectancy. There's issues regarding rate of return, and those can be debated. I suppose people get their PhDs in that and debate them for their life. I would suggest that what we do is keep the pension contributions at least at what we've done the last 2 years, which was a significant addition than what was being done before that, and not spend tons of time debating the age versus the rate of return, but say we're making a commitment here. I'm sure that in the budget documents, the staff is hoping to reduce those contributions. I think significantly, I would argue, no, we know that money's owed. Let's bite the bullet. Let's make sure that we're paying approximately $1.6 million a year into that.
Jim and Mark have identified a number of issues that the board faces on this issue. I would not call LaGrange a town with a pension crisis. We have funded pensions. We are not we've not followed the state in having tax holidays and increasing expenses while not putting anything into those pensions. So we are in better shape than what we're seeing in other areas in our state. That being said, it's an issue that we obviously need to take seriously. Some of the assumptions may have been too generous, and we've paid the price over the past number of years in a market downturn. So obviously we need to take a look at that and take that seriously, and take a look at retirement age and actuarial issues, so that we are being honest with our pension system, and we're not putting the village in a crisis situation 10 and 20 years down the road.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, I'd like if you could make a brief closing statement. I do apologize to library board candidates for not allowing you time for your closing statement. But if the village board candidates could make a brief closing statement, that would be appreciated. So Jeff, you have the microphone.
Since I have the mic. As the newcomer, I'm excited about the opportunity that lies ahead. Obviously, being unopposed, it's likely that I'm going to win and be on this board on May 9th, and I'm excited about that opportunity. I'm excited to be able to take your voices and bring that up to the others and make decisions on behalf of you. you as our citizens, making decisions on behalf of our business owners. If you talk to people who have worked with me on the Plan Commission, on the CEDC, I think you'll find me as a collaborative person working together with those on the commission. And I will do the same on the village board, working with my colleagues on the board, along with our citizens, my fellow citizens, in reaching the best decisions we can, and always acting in the best interest of our village and you as its citizens. Thanks again for coming tonight.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I realize that next up is the contested election, and perhaps a lot of you are here for that, but I do appreciate you coming early and hearing what we have to say. I've said frequently, most of us in this village could choose to live in almost any other village around, and we choose to live in LaGrange because it is a great community. It's a great community to raise our families. It's a great community to be a member of. I've enjoyed being on the village board for the last 4 years. The part I've enjoyed the most is meeting people that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to meet. And it's been a great learning experience. I look forward to serving for 4 more years. Thanks.
Well, I too have enjoyed meeting a lot of people I never would have met. And I'm going to ask you to do something for me now. And that is reach out to your elected people, your elected officials, both locally and in Springfield. You can reach us on new email addresses that we put together when we relaunched the website. And it's the first initial and then the full last name of the village president, of the trustees. Let us know what's on your mind. I've had, excellent conversations with people who say, I saw you on the village board meeting the other night. It was on television. Or I was in the room and I'd like to have a conversation about something. Let your elected officials know what your concerns are. Sometimes we don't hear enough. And other times, going knocking on doors, getting signatures, I got an earful. But, whatever it is we need to know, we won't need to know it. We don't know we need to know it unless you tell us. So, by all means, reach out and contact all of us at your wishes and say what's on your mind. Tell us how you can make the village better. I'd love to do surveys and whatnot as part of our role on the board, but we're not doing that yet. But let us know what's going on. Let us know what you'd like us to do for you.
Right, well, thank you to the village board candidates, Mark Kuchler, Jeff Nowak, and Jim Palermo. We appreciate your time and participation. Thank you.